So your customers receive advising and coaching as part of their actual business credit building program. So the coaching is not a done for you program, and that's something that your customers need to know. Our normal finance suite provides business advising and coaching. This doesn't mean that the advisors and coaches are going to build the person's credit profile and score for them, because that's not the case at all. The customer needs to know that they're going to be the ones that go in, go through the steps, select the credit they want, actually apply for that credit, and use that credit and pay the bill. There are just things as part of this process that only a customer can actually do themselves. The coaches are there to help during the process, not to actually execute the process on the customer's behalf. And again, the reason we're going through this initial training with you is to teach you some of the problems that our partners have experienced. So some partners will try to convince customers or kind of embellish what the coaches do, and the customer comes in thinking it's all going to be done for them. Well, that's not the case. The customer's going to be navigating through the steps. The advisors are just there to help them along the way, to coach them, to make sure they're doing what needs to be done to have success. So coaches will call the customer as well as receiving incoming calls. So they're available for incoming calls. They're also available to actually receive calls. Okay, so they'll be receiving calls and they'll be making outgoing coaching calls, and they're available from 9 to 7, so your customers have reasonable expectations. You don't want to tell somebody at 7 o'clock on a Friday night that they're going to get a call right away. That's not going to happen till the next business day. So you need to know that those hours of operation are when they're actually available. Now, voicemails and emails received after those hours are going to be returned the next business day. Look, 100% of any voicemail we receive is returned. And just so you know, 90% of all incoming calls are answered. But here's the problem. The problem is we're willing to do as much as needed to be done with the customer, which means sometimes our advisors might be on the phone with one customer for 30 to 60 minutes. So there might be a possibility that the customer calls in and gets voicemail. Why is that happening? Only one reason, because all the advisors we have are working with other customers. And that's the thing, is that when we offer the deep level of servicing that we offer the customer, that means that we might spend 30, 60 minutes with one customer. That might mean that when another customer calls in, they might get voicemail. So you want to talk to your customers about that. Look, we're going to offer really extensive service. We're going to help them as much as they need help. We'll spend 30 minutes or 60 minutes with them on the phone, but because we do that level of servicing, that might mean there's a chance they hit voicemail when they call in. If that were to happen, as soon as our advisor gets off the call, they go ahead, they check the voicemail, they return the call. So if that were ever to happen, make sure your customers leave a voicemail and they'll get back with the actual finance team right away. So customer contact is logged in the customer notes available in your dashboard. So in your actual dashboard where it says client dashboard, you can click, you can open up that client's record, you'll see something that says notes, you can click on notes. All correspondence from finance officers, loan processors, from the business advisor team, whenever they reach out to a customer or make contact with a customer, they log the details in the notes. In real time, you have access. So you know exactly what kind of communication is really taking place with your customer. Now, customers are going to get 5 phone calls in the first 5 days, and weekly to bi-weekly calls in the weeks that follow. So look, we understand what buyer's remorse is, where somebody buys something and they're like, oh man, did I make the right decision? So right away, we start really kind of aggressively coaching them so they'll know to come to us for help and not you. So that way we can take over the servicing properly. And so they know they made a good decision by buying. So to do this, in the first 5 days, we call them 5 times. This is our kickstart, our jumpstart period, where we're really trying to get them in there, get them through step 1, get them into the finance qualifier, get the ball rolling to help them start getting credit quickly and to start getting finance right away. Okay, now you can get the actual call schedule and details of what happens on these calls right here. So if you go to suitelogin.com /advisory team service schedule, you'll actually be able to see in depth the coaching schedule. You'll be able to click and see what takes place on all calls. You'll be able to see how often calls take place. You'll be able to see all the details of what happens with customers during these calls, so you know what to expect and you can pass on those expectations to your actual customers. Now, as I mentioned, some calls will take longer. 90% of calls are answered and 100% of voicemails and emails are returned. Okay, so if anybody ever tells tells you, look, I tried to get in touch with them and I couldn't, that only means one thing. They never left a voicemail. And if they call us and we don't know they called, then we obviously can't call them back. So again, most of our calls are answered, even though we spend so much time with the client on the phone. But even if they were to hit voicemail, as long as they leave us a voicemail, as long as they send us an email, we are ridiculously prompt at getting back to them if that were to occur. So if you're ever to talk to a customer that says they couldn't get in touch with us for any reason, that means they called, we were probably on the phone coaching another client, and then at the exact same time, they didn't leave a voicemail, so we couldn't get back in touch with them. So you want to make sure you instruct your customers that we provide this deep level of servicing. Sometimes that means we might be on the phone. If that were ever to happen, if they were to send us an email or leave a voicemail, we'll always promptly get back to them. Okay, getting in touch with customers is a hurdle we have. So make sure that you let us know the best phone numbers to call the customer when you actually set them up as a new customer, and make sure they know they're going to get a call from the business credit advising team. Okay, we don't say a company name. It's very important to know this. Our system is white label, which means you put your logo in there. They don't get emails that say Business Finance Suite. Our team doesn't introduce themselves as the Business Finance Suite team. We keep this white label so it looks like it's your company, we're the servicer. Sometimes our advising team will even mention your company's name in the initial call. If they happen to have it in front of them in the customer's record, they'll often even mention your company's name. But you need to make sure that customers are expecting calls from the business credit advising team. Let them know that once you get them set up, within 24 hours, they're going to get a call. Unless, of course, it's, Friday night at 9 o'clock when you set them up. Within 24 business hours, they're going to get a call. Typically, we try to call within 2 hours of you setting them up as a new customer. So you want to tell them 24 hours because we want to under promise and over deliver. We try to get them within 2 hours. And again, sometimes we get their gatekeeper at their business, or we leave voicemails for them. They're like, who's this guy from the business advising team? And they never get back to us. So you need to make sure that they're expecting the phone calls from us. And again, sometimes when trying to return their call, we run into issues not being able to leave voicemails, leaving messages that don't get delivered with other team members, or them not knowing who we are. So this sometimes happens. So maybe we'll try to get in touch with the customer and their voicemail is full, or we leave a message for their receptionist, or we get in touch with them, we leave a voicemail, they don't know who we are. So sometimes this does happen where a partner will say, hey, look, Mr. Smith said that he hasn't heard from you. And we say, yes, look at the notes. We've called him 4 times. And then they say, oh, Mr. Smith didn't put 2 and 2 together. He didn't know that that's who you were. This does sometimes happen. Again, our goal is to make sure there's no buyer's remorse, that we overwhelm them with good service right from the beginning. That can only happen if they know who we are, know to expect these calls to come in, so we don't run into these barriers. Okay, and again, you can contact us by email at advisor@businessfinancesuite.com, or you can leave a note in the dashboard of your finance suite if a customer hasn't been able to make contact with us. So if anybody says, hey, look, I wasn't able to make contact, no big deal. Immediately email us, advisor@businessfinancesuite.com. You'll get a very prompt response from us. You can also leave a note in their notes section. That alerts our team as well, and then they'll take action and make sure they make contact right away. But just keep in mind, if anybody has an issue with not being contacted, it's either because they weren't properly and fully set up as a new customer in the suite, so make sure you check your client dashboard to see that they're there, or that we're trying to get in touch with them, but there's a barrier in the way where we can't, and all of that information will be reflected in your customer's notes. So you can check that out and in real time know exactly what's happening with your customers during the advisor correspondence.